Now, joining us on the program, David Adams, president of the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. And David, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Cam. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on the program. It was a few days ago that we heard Virginia Governor Tim Kaine say that he was hoping that the Virginia legislature would take up the issue of the quote-unquote gun show loophole. But a spokesman for the governor said he wasn't sure how much political capital the governor was willing to expend on this. Well, and now I guess some clarifications coming from the Roanoke Times. Quote, Governor Tim Kaine said Tuesday that he will make a, quote, very aggressive push next year to try and stop private firearms owners from engaging in private firearms transactions at gun shows in the Commonwealth. Now, what's your take on this?
Well, it looks like to me that he got beat up a little bit by some folks in the press last week when he said he wanted it but wasn't sure he wanted to put his neck out on the line to push for it. And now we hear yesterday at the annual AP Day at the Capitol that sure enough he is going to stick his neck out on the line. And so for the first time since Doug Wilder was in office in 1993, we're going to have a Virginia governor actively pushing for gun control.
Yeah, and this is interesting. This, of course, comes out of the Virginia Tech shootings earlier this year, but we know that the killer at Virginia Tech did not get his firearms at a gun show. He did not go through a private firearms owner. In fact, he obeyed Virginia's one-gun-a-month laws.
Well, what everybody seems to be missing that's pushing for the closing the so-called gun show loophole is that gun shows had nothing to do with it. And, in fact, the guy went through background checks. There was a breakdown in the judicial system in getting his mental health information where it needed to be. And the fact that the federal government has a role to play in this because of HIPAA and FERPA. Virginia Tech could not communicate or felt they could not communicate with the guy's parents when he started showing some questionable behavior. That's where the real fault lies in all of this, and it's just that gun shows are an easy target, and this is what everybody's decided they're going to pick on. The governor said yesterday that if he could not have gone through the background check at the gun shop, then he would have turned to an unlicensed, what he calls an unlicensed dealer or private sales at a gun show. I don't think that's the case at all. I've worked a lot of gun shows, and I can tell you that the guys who walk in with the guns on their shoulders with the for sale sign on them typically walk out of the show with them on their back. So very few of those sales are made at gun shows.
Well, absolutely. We know from the Department of Justice, which has investigated where criminals get a hold of firearms, that they're not getting them from gun shows either. The vast majority of the criminals who are getting firearms illegally are getting them on the street, through robberies, from friends, from family. They're not getting them at gun shows.
Absolutely.
Now, there are a couple of quotes here I want to highlight. Senator John Edwards, not the guy running for president, but State Senator John Edwards from Roanoke. He has opposed previous efforts to block the sale of firearms or private sale of firearms without the background check. He says that the political climate for gun control has not changed significantly. House Majority Leader Morgan Griffith, the Republican from Salem, said that lawmakers instead should concentrate on fixing problems in the mental health system that contributed to Cho's failure to get court-ordered treatment. So it does seem as if there is bipartisan support for focusing attentions on where it can make a difference rather than on gun control legislation.
Absolutely. And both Senator Edwards and Delegate Griffith have been good friends to Virginia gun owners. In fact, Senator Edwards sits on the Senate Courts of Justice Committee, which is where most of those gun show bills go through. I have not seen what the committee makeup is going to be in the new session, but I would imagine Senator Edwards is going to still be there. Senator Roscoe Reynolds is another Democrat from the southern or southwest portion of the state who's been a good friend to us and has always voted against those bills when they came before the committee. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the Senate. I still think we have enough votes that we could stop it on the floor. It may get out of committee, but I'm not a betting man, so I talked to our legislative liaison today and got his take on what he thought our strategy should be. And we're going to be working real hard in both houses, and if it gets out of the Senate, then we'll just double our efforts in the House and Delegate Griffith will be right there at Militia and Police to help us out, I believe.
All right. Now, I want to ask you, too, while we've got you here, David, a story from earlier in the week in the Commonwealth where the Freedom of Information Advisory Council has endorsed a proposal that would stop the public and stop the media from getting access to the names of right to carry holders through the Virginia State Police. It's kind of a medium step, if you will. If reporters were so inclined, they could still go down to the circuit court and get information from individual counties, but they couldn't get the blanket list of names from the VSP, like the Roanoke Times did earlier this year. And the Times has published an editorial, shockingly, I know you'll be shocked by this, opposing this bill. In fact, they say, they quote House Majority Leader Morgan Griffith, who says, quote, "I think the real concern here was that there were a lot of people on that list who were victims of crime, who had been stalked, or who had been in abusive situations." And the Roanoke Times says that's a reasonable fear and precisely what prompted the newspaper to reconsider, and after fielding hundreds of complaints, to remove its online link to the database. Rather than put all of that data out of the public's easy reach, though, the state should address the real concern and redact only the information that might reasonably be thought to put someone in harm's way. What's your take on this, where the Roanoke Times says, well, okay, yeah, we screwed up and we did put people at risk, but don't take the information away from us?
Well, if they really want to go do some work, they can still go down to the circuit court and fumble through all the records and handwrite the information. If they want it that bad, they're more than welcome to do that on the proposed bill. I think they have struck a good balance, and once again, Delegate Griffith, who's on the FOIA committee, and Senator Ed Houck from Spotsylvania, I think they've worked out a good compromise on that, where it protects those people who are most in need of a concealed handgun permit, those who have been victims of domestic violence or a victim of some other crime. They need protection. Roanoke Times has just been a crybaby. They've been a real big proponent of FOIA. I'm one of those who has mixed emotions on this whole. There's certain information that should be out there, but there's information that we don't need out there, and personal information is just such information, I think, that should be kept away from those who want to make a political point out of it.
All right. Well, David, it's always good talking to you, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the program tonight.